As the cost of putting food on the table continues to climb, it's clear more and more families are turning to food banks.
It's in a new report released today, and the details of who is in need might surprise you. CTV's Natalie Johnson has the story.
Among the Scarborough residents turning to food banks are people with full-time jobs, students, and new Canadians. The Scarborough Food Security Initiative says the statistics underscore the need to improve housing, immigration, and income. Inside the Feed Scarborough warehouse, the heart of the operation. They can barely keep stock on the shelves.
Now the way it is, all the food you see coming is going to all go out right away.
The 5 food banks it services are seeing a record demand, a 112% increase in visits over last year. And the people behind the effort to feed the community say it is clear Scarborough is struggling.
Why are they here? Who are they? Because that's important. When we talk about solutions, it's important to know who are the solutions for.
A deep dive into the demographics highlights who is in need, and some of the statistics are startling. 28% of Feed Scarborough Food Bank clients are employed. 65% of the clients are students. 89% live on rental property.
When all of those eviction notices come at the same time, I want you to ask yourself, where are our neighbors going to go? Where are they going to live? And the answer is nowhere right now. The answer is the tent city that's being built up your street.
Many are new Canadians. 95% of Feed Scarborough clients were not born in Canada. 72% have been in this country for less than a year. 93% identify as Black, Indigenous, or a person of color.
We need more than snack programs with apples and cucumbers. We need culturally diverse and relevant foods that are sustainable and feed the soul and the body.
Donations of all kinds are needed here. Volunteers make 2,000 meals every week. But the warehouse has more water than food.
Really, it's a very dire situation right now when we talk about food security. The demand is up, the donations are low.
A community bracing for a need that could continue to grow. Some of the actions the group is calling for to address food insecurity include boosting the minimum wage, extending summer jobs programs to international students, and doubling the pace of housing starts. Natalie Johnson, CTV News.
It really does give you pause that double the amount of people are visiting food banks. Tell us more about what Daily Bread is seeing at its food banks.
Yeah, thanks for having me today. The unfortunate reality is our Who's Hungry report this year is quite grim. It took us about 30 years in Toronto to cross the 1 million threshold of food bank visits in the city. And then it took only 2 years to cross the 2 million mark, and it's only going to take 1 year. By the end of 2023, we will have crossed the 3 million visit mark. So we know people in our community are struggling with the immense cost of living and stagnating wages, and income support's just not keeping pace.
And who is going to the food bank? Does your work look into that? Does your research look into who is using the food bank?
Absolutely. So, everyone, a cross-section of society is coming to the food bank. We continue to see a large number of people who are relying on fixed incomes, things like social assistance, seniors benefits, whose benefits just aren't able to keep up with the rising cost of rent, the rising cost of food, which has been growing so rapidly. But this year, what we're seeing is an increase in people who are employed coming to food bank. So amongst our new clients, we've seen about 120,000 new clients in the past year alone. And of those, about half have someone in their household who's employed. And so these are people who, they're working and they still aren't able to afford their most basic necessities.
If usage continues at this rate, what are you expecting to happen by even the end of this year? I think you do your reports from March to March, but what could happen in the next 6 or 7 months?
Food banks are really at their breaking point. We were never designed to be the sort of default food security solution. We are an emergency food response. And, as people struggle with making ends meet, there's also more people who are struggling to make donations potentially. And people who might have been donors are actually now potentially having to come to the food bank. And so without government action, I really don't know how we can continue on this trajectory. And so we're really trying to raise the alarm to all levels of government to say we need income supports, affordable housing, and to reduce precarious employment, because without those initiatives, we're just going to continue to see food bank use rise in the city.
Christmas is right around the corner. What are food banks expecting to see this year? Will there be enough food available?
It's hard to tell. We've been very fortunate that the community has stepped up time and time again throughout the pandemic and now through the inflation challenges we're facing. So we've been really fortunate to have that community support. But this is the time of year where Canadians, reflect on the gratitude that they have, the family, the community. And so it's a time where people look to support their community. And we hope people will do that as well. But we also hope, in addition to, making a donation, looking to volunteer, that people will become advocates. People will contact their elected representatives and say, I don't want to see people in my community going hungry. And that's government's job to address through upstream policies that prevent food insecurity. So that's, I think, the number one thing people can be doing right now is contacting their elected representatives and sharing this report with them.
Talia Bronstein, thank you so much for being with us today. Really appreciate it.
And we're back with all of you. Welcome to another edition of Speak Your Mind. What you just saw is a little bit of what we have to say about today's topic, which is about the food crisis here in Canada. Yesterday, we spoke with Crystal, somebody who for a long time has been noticing a very big difference in supermarkets that we all know and love, but that have had a surge in their pricing. Ms. Audrey, this person, if they want to sound off, if they want to cast their vote, they can definitely do that through our survey that we have, correct?
Correct, Pastor. We still had our survey going on, and like always, they can scan the QR code as it appears on their screen. And we have the question for everyone: is Canada experiencing a food crisis? If you believe that it's to blame it on the government, we have that option. We have nothing was the same after COVID, and price isn't a problem for me. So let us know what you think, and we'll be announcing the results during it.
And Lupita, we've been receiving comments all throughout the program, tonight's, yesterday's. What do we have to read?
Yes, so everyone's sending their comments, and you can also send yours through our phone number, 437-233-9815. And we have Walter's comment that goes, and 70% of us are obese. That is a statistical fact. So yes, we need to learn to starve a bit like the third world countries do. Those countries, the people live off of rice mostly. This is for us to start being more gracious, grateful for what we have, period. I'm struggling to put food on the table, but my son and I are overweight, headed towards obese. So can I cry? And can the 70% of the population in which is obese really cry? I think not. If the statistics are that most of us are obese, that means we're carrying 40% of pound of fat, and we'll be okay. So we have his comment here for today, and we definitely have others that are sending in their messages, just like Shan that says, not even joking when I say my grocery bill went down $100 weekly when I started shopping at Farm Boy instead. Farm Boy.
70% are fat, overweight, going to obese. And what was his name?
That was Walter.
I feel attacked, I'm not gonna lie to you, but it's all good. Shout out to the homie who goes to Farm Boy also. I want you to show, if the studio can prepare now, we went to the streets of Toronto and we asked everybody also what they thought. Don't forget, you can keep chiming in. You can send us a message if you want, 437-233-9815, or if you want to give us a call, 1-877-785-8700. Let's see what the streets of Toronto had to say about our topic.
In your opinion, do you believe that there is a food crisis here going on in Canada?
I don't know if we're the right guys to ask this because we're still very new to the country. So far, so good. Compared to where we came from, yes, things are a whole lot more expensive, but we'll adapt, I guess.
Not sure about food crisis, though. It's more of just things that are going up in prices. So I can't say for the actual food itself is a crisis.
It's gone up in the last year. I definitely see prices, jam that I used to pay $3 went up to $4, which is crazy. It's $1 increase, which is like 33% increase.
And so far from what you know, is there a price increase in groceries nowadays? Are there maybe in certain places you find more expensive than others?
For sure. Like if you go to different places like No Frills or Shoppers, everybody has different price ranges, right? So for the same items, you can go here and see $5, you can go somewhere and see $4. So you just have to pick which one is cheaper and then go for that, I guess.
Yes, of course. Prices of anything that goes up, it will impact because I guess the amount of money you make versus the amount of your expenses or your spending does affect your, if prices of food goes up, that will affect your spending or your expenses in that sense. So yes, to answer that question, yes, it is going up and it's impactful. Less money to spend on leisure and what have you.
People can't afford to buy food, and the food banks are important.
Money cannot buy anything. Anything. It cannot buy nothing at all. But we have to do the little that we can do and satisfy until better come, if it will come, which I hope better will come.
What do you think needs to be done in regards to people that might be struggling off of, the food crisis that is going on here in Canada?
So I feel if the government would have to help, I think it's going back to food production. So when it comes to the farms, making, I don't know how they'll do it, but like just going back, it has to start from the basics. So where's the food coming from? How's it produced? What, supply chain, how is it transported, and try to make it, very accessible, because once it's cheaper from the grassroots, I feel it's just going to, trickle up.
I think it has to do with inflation and price gouging.
Do you believe that the government needs to help more, especially with people that might be struggling nowadays?
I mean, definitely. I think government should always help when people need, I guess. And it doesn't have to be just about the food, but in different aspects of living, right? So not just food, even housing. I think government should help generally, yeah.
To be honest with you, sure. I don't really know, but I would assume so. If the government has the means or the what word am I looking for? If they have the the funds to do it, I would hope they would do it. But I don't really know what their agendas is or are, so I can't say. But I would hope,
I think they are. I'm not sure what else they could do beside, giving them free food, which they get through the food banks.
But do you think that they're responsible for people that might be struggling nowadays? For example, refugees or people that are barely coming in. Do you think it's their responsibility to help more?
Sorry, I would assume so, just because they are opening the door for more, I guess, refugee students, international students, what have you, are entering Canada. You can see it now, it's higher, as in the amount of people that are not citizens in that sense are higher in the country, but are they helping? I don't know.
We want to changes like better price, and better living. Because as I said, the rent, that is a killer. The rent is a killer. The food also, but you have to prepare the rent first and the food after. Because in this winter, you cannot stay outside. So you have to pay the rent and, balance on what you have. That is my opinion. And when you walk in the supermarket, what you see you usually buy, you can't buy it anymore.
Do you think high cost of living, including food prices, is affecting a lot of families?
Yes. For example, if their income is not enough, then 100%, right? Especially if they're lower incomes and what have you. So 100%, yes, it does affect.
And do you think that only here in Canada is probably struggling with this food crisis, or do you believe maybe it's in different parts of the world as well?
Okay, so from where we're from Nigeria. I would say it's affecting, and we have the same food crisis in Nigeria. Maybe it has to also do with the economic situation there, but there's a food crisis, and one of the biggest challenge we have over there back in Nigeria is transporting the food produce so it's becoming way more expensive, and that's where they have to add money to the end for the end users to eventually pay for. So I think for back in our country, they will have to improve the transportation, the way they people access foods from the farms and wherever.
It started a long time because we have to pay rent. And when you pay the rent, there's nothing left. What is left? Just a pinch. But what we're going to do? We have to just do what we have to do. Eat smaller amount
which you was eating smaller before, but now it's worse because that's what it is.
That's about it.
Hey, how's it going? Oh.
I'll get this rolling here. Give me a second. We're just gonna.
Yeah, so this is it. This is the setup. But we have 2 cameras, right?
Yep, on the front.
Oh, okay.
Back.
You need to frame me up, like. So this is gonna work.
I think so.
I almost wanna I want to show you guys what you guys look like here. It's the crew as we try to set this up. That's Oliver. Okay, we've got this set up here. So I'm just gonna like go through, right? Let's go shopping. Okay, so hi, first of all, I'm Andrew Chang. You are watching About That, the show where we explain and expand on the news. And we're here in this grocery store because I have a gut feeling, and this is a feeling that I'm sure you guys have too, that the price of everything is up. But not all prices are up by the same amount, if you know what I mean. So some things have gone up in price quite a bit, and some things have only gone up in price just a little. And it's that second part that I'm really interested in today. We're gonna try to find the foods that have been increased in price the least. Okay, let's do it. Okay, here's where I'm gonna go. So this feels like a good deal, 89 cents a pound. I think that's gonna be a winner. Where's the lettuce? Oh, wait, what am I doing? It's right here. Okay, it's perfect. It's just what I'm looking for. Oh, you know what? I'm gonna go this way. I have a good feeling about frozen stuff. And by the way, I gotta show you guys. Look at Oliver here and Drew. This is a full 3-man operation where Drew's got to make sure that Oliver doesn't kill himself walking backwards. Let's go really fast. Just kidding. Don't. Careful. Let's park that over here. This is crazy expensive right now. $10. Let's go with that. One more stop. We're gonna go to the meat aisle. I'll see you there. With the beef over here, the thing that I want to look at are the unit prices, because it's hard to compare apples to oranges or different cuts of meat to other different kinds of meat. So the price per kilogram is kind of the important piece here. So just look at this as an example. $21 per kilogram. This other cut, I mean, this was like a $9 thing that you could buy. This is $11. The price per kilogram, $35. And I think, like, we know this intuitively, right, from doing our shopping, that beef has been one of those things that's really gone up. But it's the chicken and the pork that I want to take a closer look at. Like, this is a really good example, right? Who's in the mood for some pork butt? $6.99 a kilogram. So that's quite a bit cheaper than what we've seen. Chicken, like, I feel like chicken has also gotten quite a bit more expensive. Yeah, so we've got drumsticks here. This is $14 a kilogram. That'll be a good point of comparison. Okay, you know what? I think we're good. Let's check out and take stock of what we have. Okay. Hi, how you doing? Hi. So there are a couple ways that we could proceed from here when it comes to figuring out prices for these things. And one is to look at the data, right? So, you know, we could compare the prices that we're paying now to prices from, say, a year ago. But there are some reasons why looking at data alone doesn't necessarily tell the whole picture, because like prices can vary from, you know, store to store, city to city, even month to month. I think I also kind of just want to like ask people what they've noticed has cost a lot, what doesn't cost so much. And yeah, we'll figure it out. What do we have? What does $63 buy you nowadays? Okay, we've got bananas, lettuce, mixed vegetables. We got some meat, pork butt, some drumsticks, and some pork shoulder, some margarine, corn, and we've got the orange juice here. All of this was $63. So, you know, we've talked to different people to get their sense of how much different things cost and how that's changed over time. We've also bought a few of our own things based on a couple of hunches, but like I said before, we can compare all of this to statistical data from the past because StatsCan, every single month, they take common household grocery goods like this, like pork, margarine, orange juice, lettuce, bananas, all that sort of stuff, and they keep track of the prices every single month. I can actually just pull that up on my phone. So let me look this up. Something like beef, for example. So if I look at beef strip loin cuts, so per kilogram, you know, 3 years ago, it was $18.13 a kilogram. Now, $26.25. That's a massive increase, right? That's almost, I guess, like a 33% increase. Beef rib cuts, you know, went from $20 to $26.50, and it sort of goes on. And, you know, StatsCan, they also even organize the data according to these broad categories. And so if I look at the inflation rate of certain goods, so margarine here, so this was $10 for this tub, that's up 40%. Lettuce up 30%. Soups, you know, we heard folks talking about that today. That's up 20%. Dairy up 10, eggs up 14, and it just kind of keeps going. Meat up somewhere between 5 and 7%, depending on the kind of cuts that you buy. Man, that's a lot.
And we're back with all of you and reminding that if you are someone who in this moment finds themselves in a tough spot, in a situation that unfortunately forces you to maybe receive help, or you know, you're at your wit's end, tomorrow, Saturday, at 11 o'clock in the morning, we're going to be having a social event here, 2418. If it's easier, you can just put 2420 Dufferin Street. Right next door, we have our center where you are going to be able to pick up food. You're going to be able to receive the help that you need. And Ms. Audrey, I think we have a little bit more comments regarding our topic today.
Yes, Pastor, we do. We have Jane that sent us a message and says like this: there is a food crisis, but you have to get creative. I find tips and ways to get the most out of my dollar. I personally use every app for reward points, and it has worked for me. It can be a little time consuming, but I have to do what I have to do for my family. We also have Kimberly that says like this: I personally had to convince my spouse to accompany me to a food bank to feed our growing family. Despite how embarrassing or shameful it might be in our home country to ask for any type of help. We do it because we are in need, although we have a full-time working job, but it still does not seem to be enough when we go and buy our groceries. And so this is why I like that we're able to have food banks. However, it was something difficult to do because of our background. So, Pastor, someone that even says that they are working, having this job, full-time job, both, you know, her and her husband, but yet seem to be still struggling with this. And that's how we can tell that this, you know, food crisis is going on here in Canada. A lot of people, even though, you know, it doesn't mean that they're necessarily, you don't have a job, you know, they have low income, but, you know, someone that has a good job, yet they still are unable to afford, you know, the basic food, the basic needs for their, to provide for their families.
And one of the comments that I think it was the first one, Lupita, I'll ask you, she said that she has to get creative, I guess, when it comes to a budget. Is that something that maybe you here in Toronto seeing you agree with? Do you think you kind of have to get a little creative? You kind of have to do things or eat things or prepare things you normally don't?
I think it's good to be creative. So definitely when you see something that's on sale, you could definitely use it in different types of ways, no? Whether it's either even buying bread and freezing it for a good while. I definitely have come to notice that bread, when you freeze it and bake it afterwards, it's still the same thing. It comes out fluffy, it comes out really good. So definitely being creative with the food that you buy, whether it's buying a little bit of cheese here or cereal, milk, and then finding a way to make it into, or potatoes, eggs. You can make so many things with just those two things. Potatoes, you can make mashed potatoes a potato salad, eggs, boiled eggs, fried eggs. I don't know. So there's so many things that we can do with the food that we have, and it's just buying and finding a way. Even looking on Google, YouTube teaches us so many things on different recipes.
I think we're going to have a separate segment now, Lupita, of you cooking food, making 5 things with potatoes.
I got you.
We're going to go to our last video, and then we're going to share the results of our poll. Pay very close attention. We'll be right back.
If you've been to the grocery store lately, then you know the cost of food just keeps climbing and climbing, with the typical bill for a family of 4 expected to jump by more than $1,000 in 2023. So, I wanted to know how people here in BC are coping and what creative ways they've found to deal with the high prices.
I personally save thousands of dollars a year in groceries by just going online and using different apps.
First 3 rows last year were high trellises of Romano beans, which looked really beautiful and were super productive.
And I also wanted to understand what these rising costs mean for their lives in the long term and how we might fix this for good. I'm in Surrey outside of a grocery store where we're about to meet this no-nonsense grandma named Erin Schultz. Now in her house, she has 6 mouths that she has to feed. She has her daughter, her 4 grandchildren, and she's come up with a genius way to save hundreds of dollars when she goes grocery shopping. And so how have you noticed that the rising cost of food over the last year has impacted your family?
Basically everything for kids, especially school snacks, things like that, I noticed never go on sale anymore. Items that used to be $1.99, 2 for $5 are now, $3, $3.50, $4 each. Cost of produce is absolutely outrageous. And I think that the more processed foods is almost a cheaper way to go.
Have you had to change how you shop, the way you shop, what you shop for?
Well, I don't ever pay full price for anything, ever, no matter how badly we want it. And I just basically took to the internet and started researching ways of saving money.
Erin uses an app that collects all the flyers from local stores. She finds the cheapest price for products, then goes shopping at a store that offers price matching.
I personally save thousands of dollars a year in groceries by just going online and using different apps.
Should we shop?
Let's shop.
Okay. Okay, so we bought the exact same 8 items. Mine at regular price cost $36.48 total. What was your total?
$22.85 on 8 items.
And 8 items. And 8 items, I can imagine, for a house of 6 people.
This is
not a normal shop.
No.
What do you think about the fact that we're now in this place, in this country, where you have to figure something like this out, where you have to find an app that can help you save hundreds on your groceries because the price of food is so high?
It's terrifying. It's terrifying. I mean, you think of this kids in school. What are they eating? What are your parents having to get a second job to be able to put fresh produce? I mean, a head of lettuce is over $6 right now. A simple head of lettuce is $6. It's ridiculous.
As food insecurity grows across Canada, it's forcing people to adapt not just on a personal level, but also a community level. Hey, I'm Joel.
We grow food in the community, by the community, and for the community.
When COVID happened, a lot of our programs shut down, and then we began to think, well, okay, we need to pivot and begin to think about what services we're providing. And so out of that came the Yard Garden Harvest Project.
The program's still in its infancy, but here's how it works. Last season, 5 different neighbors volunteered their lawns, and more than 1,200 pounds of fresh produce was grown. Now, this lawn might not look like much right now, but at the height of the growing season, it produces food like broccoli, cherry tomatoes, gailan, garlic, all this produce that is then used for food security programs. When I think about it, I think there are so many yards in Vancouver, there are so many yards in Metro Vancouver. This is a model that different communities can be replicating.
I think this should definitely be something expanded to as many neighborhoods and cities as possible, because one of the really neat impacts is how it changes space and changes people's perspective on what a yard can be. It doesn't have to just be grass or, shrubs. It can produce food. And I think that's a really neat part of the project.
I love seeing all the positive and creative ways Canadians are dealing with the cost of food. But the reality is, many Canadians are also being forced to make some difficult personal decisions, relying on community supports like this one. This is the Burnaby Neighborhood House. Outside, Canadians of all types are lining up to pick up some fresh produce and other staples. Inside, volunteers are busy organizing, preparing, and packing. What has the demand been? You guys now have 9 food hubs here. What are you seeing from people as the cost of groceries keeps climbing and climbing?
Yeah, we keep adding people. So one of the things that we're seeing is that people cannot afford food, and it impacts their income each month. And so it's either lose their house or find somewhere to get the food. And so that extra money that they normally would have had for food, they don't have it anymore. And so a lot of the people that are coming to us are supplementing. They're not what you would typically see at the food banks and what people always expect to be at the food banks. They are people that are working that just can't make those ends meet. And so that's what we're seeing.
And we're back with all of you. Miss Audrey, we have the results of our poll, correct?
Yes, Pastor, we have the following. Is Canada experiencing a food crisis? We have 4% of people that have voted price isn't a problem for me. We have 30% of people that blame it on the government, and the majority, 66%, that say nothing was the same after COVID. Those are the final results for the program.
You know, as much as, you know, one can even say, I don't know if we can put the image of the poll back on. We obviously see that a small percentage say that price isn't the problem. There can even be a select that say, oh, nothing was the same after COVID. And some can even go with the default answer, blame it on the government. I'm nobody to not, how can I say, condemn the government, but there's a moment where we just have to say, regardless of what situation, regardless of the cards we're being dealt with, we need to find a way to work around it. Because at the end of the day, if you're watching me, I'm going to be as very blunt. Well, I'm glad that we're called Speak Your Mind, but there's no way that I'm going to be able to go forward if everything is going according to plan. There's nobody in this world who goes forward in their lives when everything is going good. There's no way. No, there's absolutely no way. There's always a situation. There's never going to be something that at 100% is going to be in your favor. And that's why you who are watching us should understand that a miracle, a change, the power of God is not automatic. It's provoked. Time and time again, we see people in the Bible who provoked that change. This testimony that you're about to watch is about somebody who provoked that change. It's about someone who took with the cards that they were being dealt with and decided, you know what, I stopped suffering today. And if you have that mindset, then that's something that it's going to take you to another level in your life. Whether price isn't going to be the problem, whether you're going to blame the government, whether you're going to blame something that happened 2-3 years ago, but there's something that you're going to be able to notice, that when God is truly working in your life, nothing stays the same. So things like groceries, as unfortunate as it is that it raises the price, and we've all seen it, you know that that's not just something because of option A, B, C. But if God is with you, then it's like the Bible says, for if God is for us, who can be against us? Nobody, not even groceries. So if you're watching us tomorrow, be my guest. Tomorrow, 11 o'clock in the morning, we want you to be here. We want you to receive a box of food, completely free, no charge to you. But we want you to be able to receive that help. 2420 Dufferin Street. I want you to pay attention to this next story and prepare yourself, because tomorrow, being a new day, you're going to be able to see a change in your life. God bless.
My name is Adrian. I am 51 years old, and I'm a real estate agent. I'm a realtor. I did experience financial problems, economic problems, which affected my marriage, my family. We didn't even have money to buy groceries, to buy food. We didn't have money to pay our utilities. You know, they would come in disconnect our power, our services. My family provided me a very good education. I went to the top schools, and however, regardless of how much I prepared myself and how much education I had, it's as if everything was just going wrong. It was as if I had bad luck or a curse, and it was affecting my family. It was affecting my marriage. So it was a tough time that we had.
I had my daughter, and I couldn't buy her like things that I wanted for her to eat, because we didn't have enough money, or provide her with the clothes that I wanted to get her. A lot of embarrassment at that time, because we didn't have money. Also, we were living with my mother-in-law. We had to move with her, and that was very disappointing for me. Being married and having a daughter and not having your own house, and it caused a lot of problems between us.
I started watching this program. It was the program from the Universal Church, which was airing late at night. And I remember one of the nights that I was seeing the program, there was a couple that was going through the exact same thing that my wife and I were going through, the exact same thing. So it really, really caught my attention. And I heard their testimony, and it was like they were telling their story, but it was really our story, or what I was going through. And I woke her up and I told her, we gotta go. They're gonna have a service tomorrow night at 7 o'clock. And we went. It was a Friday night, and we went to the 7 o'clock service. The first changes I started to see is that we started to come, consistently. We were going through so many problems that we were coming every day. We were coming every day, every day. There wasn't a day that we didn't miss. The pastor showed me what I needed to do, and I put it in practice. I obeyed. He said, do this, do that. And I followed his direction.
In the beginning, I didn't like it. It was different. But the reason that I keep coming, it was because I saw the change on him. He made me stay because, like I said, I thought he was a problem. And as long as he's okay, I'm going to be okay. So as long as he's changing, I'm going to continue to come and do whatever I have to do. So he stays that way. I learn different, things from the pastor and from the church, and I put it in practice. My life was changing little by little.
My sales, I started to sell more. Things wouldn't get canceled. They would close. And I just started getting more and more business. We were able to travel. We went all throughout the world. We traveled through Europe, the Caribbean. We really, really were able to enjoy ourselves. We bought a beautiful home, beautiful cars. We were able to provide our children the best education.
By coming on Wednesday, on Sunday, I started to give my life to God. I said to God, I have all that I always wanted, but I'm not happy, and I want to glorify you with my own life, not just the materialistic. I want to be an example. I want to glorify you with my life, the way I am and the way I feel. And once I did that and I opened my heart, everything changed. I received the Holy Spirit, and I completely changed. I'm a totally different person now. I have peace. I don't need those materialistic things anymore. I have them because I know I need them, in life, and I want to glorify God with those things. But for me, the most important thing is the Holy Spirit.
That is the most precious thing. I mean, all these other things, they come and go, but the Holy Spirit, that's eternal. And my point is that without the Holy Spirit, I have nothing. It's the most precious thing that I can have. There's no material thing. There's no goal that I can achieve that can be greater than the Holy Spirit.
Toronto has entered a food shortage crisis, with 1 in 10 Torontonians depending on